BJ Mafia was popping. So the Houston Rockets right now are one of the worst teams in the NBA. They're a young and rebuilding team. And despite all of that, they have one of the best young guards in the game right now, not even 21 years of age. His name is Jalen Green, the former #2 overall pick in the 2021 NBA draft. And Jalen Green has had his ups and downs. He has not been a perfect prospect since coming into the league. But Jalen Green has gotten way too much slander, and I'm here to talk about today why he is now becoming extremely underrated, and honestly, he's became overhated. And I'm gonna talk about 3 different reasons why today Jalen Green is underrated. So let's get into this first topic. Now, the first reason Jalen Green is becoming extremely underrated is because we've seen a level of production out of Jalen Green, and also we know that this guy's capable of scoring on all 3 levels. Now, Jalen Green comes into the NBA last season, in the 2021 season, as the #2 overall pick. He had extremely high expectations, and while he was on a roster that was extremely depleted of talent, Jalen Green was forced into becoming a #1 role, especially with James Harden no longer in Houston, and now he's had to take on that load in year 2 with his time in Houston under Stephen Silas. And Jalen Green has been playing phenomenal. Like I said, it's been a roller coaster of his production. It's been a lot of up and downs, but there's been a lot more ups and there's a lot more positives that you've seen out of Jalen Green. Let's talk about his performance just last night versus the Minnesota Timberwolves. The Houston Rockets break a 13-game losing streak, and Jalen Green was phenomenal. 42 points last night, a new career high, 4 assists, 4 rebounds. He chipped in a block and a steal defensively. He was 15 of 25 from the field, 6 of 12 from 3, and he was a plus 19 when on the court. And then when you look at Jalen Green and what he's actually done this season as a whole, he's averaging 22 points per game, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, shooting about 42% from the field, 33% from 3, and he's got a true shooting percentage of a 53.7. And to put the true shooting percentage into its proper perspective, he does not even qualify into the top 100. His true shooting percentage and his effective field goal percentage is not good at all. But we have to take into account the roster construction around him, the young age that he's at, the coaching, and just all of the different variables that go into this. And we've seen with Jalen Green's production so far in his young time in the NBA that he is capable of getting to every single spot on all 3 levels offensively speaking. He's great in the fast break. He plays with a lot of tenacity defensively when he chooses to lock in on defense. But then on offense, he can hit the mid-range. We've seen him get to the basket. He can finish with both hands, getting up into the air. We know he's an electrifying dunker. He can obviously hit the 3, and yes, he is streaky, but Jalen Green does have an offensive arsenal that you can completely build around. It's still raw and really untapped into his full potential, but he has the capabilities of getting to all 3 levels and continuing to grow that, and I'm extremely excited to see how much he's going to continue to produce moving forward. Also, to really talk about Jalen Green's production before I get into the second topic, to also put this into its proper perspective, Jalen Green is #6 in NBA history with the most 30-point games before turning 21. He's going to be 21 on February 9th, so just in about 2 weeks from now. But he has 17 games in his young NBA career this season with over 30 points, and he just had a new career high last night versus the Minnesota Timberwolves. The only guys that are above him, LeBron James, Luka Doncic, KD, Zion, and Devin Booker. Jalen Green's in an elite class of guys that have done this. Now, the second reason Jalen Green's becoming extremely underrated is simply off of the roster construction and also just kind of where the team ranks, right? Jalen Green was forced as a #2 overall pick, go into a bad situation in Houston with the first-time head coach in Stephen Silas last season, and now Stephen Silas in his second year, to be forced into a role where he's going to have to be the primary ball handler, and he's going to have to carry a lot of the load offensively speaking on a young team, and he was only 19 years of age coming into the NBA. But it's really this roster around him and also where the team ranks as to why Jalen Green is becoming underrated on one of the worst teams in basketball as of right now. So the Houston Rockets this season are 28th in points per game, 30th dead last in field goal percentage, 29th in 3-point percentage, 29th in assists per game, 30th in offensive efficiency, and then you flip it over to the defensive side of the ball. The Houston Rockets are number 25 in opponent points per game, 21 in opponent field goal percentage, number 24 in opponent 3-point percentage, number 28 in defensive efficiency, and they're number 12 in steals per game. And even their pace of play is average. They're number 15 in the NBA. So offensively, they're a horrible shot-chucking team. They can't get good quality looks and they can't hit them. And defensively, they couldn't stop a nosebleed, and they don't have the pieces defensively in order to kind of have that prowess on the perimeter and on the inside. So the Houston Rockets are just a bad young team overall, and Jalen Green is being forced into this situation right now to where his numbers aren't going to look perfect right now, especially at his age and how young and raw of a talent he still is. but also that's exactly why his true shooting percentage and his effective field goal percentage and his analytics as a whole don't look all that great, and that's exactly why he's becoming underrated. Outside of Jalen Green, when you look at other talent on the team, you're going to talk about Sengun, you're going to talk about Jabari Smith, the number 3 overall pick in this year's draft, and you're going to talk about Kevin Porter Jr. All of these guys have core value building pieces for this franchise moving forward alongside Jalen Green. The rest of the Rockets pieces, none of these guys are going to be in the long-term plans for this team moving forward. And even with Kevin Porter Jr. out, you can see that the Houston Rockets consistently are moving the ball a lot better. He has a higher ISO percentage rate than a guy like Jalen Green, and the ball just doesn't stick as much. We saw last night versus the Minnesota Timberwolves, it was very evident. The Houston Rockets are consistently moving the ball, and when they do, good things happen. Especially for a young and athletic team, they should be able to move the ball. Jabari Smith, I think he's a great prospect, and I think he still has a lot more room for growth. We know he was a great shooter at Auburn, and that's not really translated quite well to the NBA yet, but once he continues to build up on his confidence and on his production, Jabari Smith will be another great player. And then Sengun, we know he's been a phenomenal player this year, and he's taken that next step up. Like, just look at his last 4 games this season: 33, 15, and 6, 24, 12, and 6, 19, 16, and 7, and 21, 7, and 7. Like, he right now is the most efficient and effective player on the Houston Rockets, but you've got to give a lot of credit to Jalen Green and the level of production in which he's done with what he's working with, and that's the big thing I'm trying to drive home with this point. The reason Jalen Green is becoming underrated is simply off of the lack of coaching. Now, I don't want to completely blame Stephen Silas for the job that he's done, even though the Rockets are one of the worst teams in basketball. They just came off a 13-game losing streak, which they just broke last night versus the Minnesota Timberwolves. Stephen Silas is not doing enough, or he's not getting enough into his players to make them play to their full potential as of yet. I understand that there's a lot of young and raw talented prospects on this team, but there just isn't a sense of urgency that you see. There's not a lot of offensive, play calling and a lot of designs. Schematically, the Houston Rockets, every time I watch them, when the ball's sticking, there are a lot of ISO ball, a lot of shot chucking, fast break opportunities turn into 3-point attempts, and that's exactly why this team is not flourishing. You have a young and athletic team, and especially a guy like Kenyon Martin Jr., another guy I forgot to mention, who's another great piece moving forward for the Houston Rockets. Like, this team has a lot of potential, and Stephen Silas is not getting to them. He's not holding these players accountable, it looks like, and these guys need to do a better job of actually tuning in and honing in on what their coach is asking of them. I don't know if that's a Stephen Silas issue, and I don't know if that's a player's not really connecting with Stephen Silas. I'm not sure what that is. But if Jalen Green can continue to develop and he can get the right coach to actually put him in a system that's going to help him flourish, he's only going to continue to ascend, because Stephen Silas is proving right now he's not a very good coach, and I don't want to completely rank on him because of the roster construction. But if Stephen Silas can't get to these guys and get these guys to play their best level of ball, then Jalen Green's going to only continue to stay at this level, and he's got a lot of untapped potential. That's another big reason as to why he is underrated, because the coaching staff and the head coach and Stephen Silas is not getting the most out of him and this offense as a whole. And the last point I kind of want to throw in there, kind of as a bonus one, is imagine the Houston Rockets right now in this roster with Victor Wembanyama or Scoot Henderson. And I'm going to specifically talk about Victor. Everyone's tanking for Victor, all these teams at the bottom of the barrel in the NBA. But the Houston Rockets, as of right now, are tied for first with the Charlotte Hornets and the Detroit Pistons at 14% for the number 1 pick in the NBA draft lottery this upcoming season. If the Houston Rockets are able to land the number 1 pick, we all know it's going to be Victor Wembanyama. I could imagine how great this offense and how much better this Houston Rockets team is going to look with a skill set of Victor Wembanyama. You've got Sengun, you've got Kevin Porter Jr., you've got Kenyon Martin Jr., you've got KPJ, and you've got Jalen Green. Like, that is an amazing young core right there, and then you would just need the coach to hopefully take them over the hump and to really unlock their potential. I think right now the Houston Rockets are in a great position moving forward. They've got the draft capital, and they have an opportunity to get a high pick in this year's draft. Just kind of wanted to throw that out there, that Jalen Green just needs another player, another guy on the team to really take that next step up, and then he's going to only continue to flourish. The man's extremely underrated. I've seen way too much slander on Twitter and just really everywhere on NBA communities that Jalen Green is an inefficient shot chucker and that the guy's not good. We need to stop giving up on these guys at 20 years of age, 21 years of age. Not everybody's going to come into the league and dominate the way LeBron did, okay? Let's just keep this a buck. Jalen Green's extremely underrated. Rockets fans and NBA fans, I want to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. Do you believe that Jalen Green is underrated? Like I said, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. But if you guys enjoyed today's video, man, make sure you guys drop me a thumbs up. It takes 1 second and it helps me in the channel out tremendously. And if you guys are new here, consider hitting that subscribe bell to stay tuned for more NBA content that I do here on YouTube. And make sure you guys go follow me on my socials, especially on Twitter. I'm very active and I'm on there every single day. The link tree will be in the description down below. But thanks again for sticking around throughout the whole video. Brett James, AKA BJ. I'm out, y'all. Peace.